but it's this one, just so you know, it's this one here. I'm just going to flip it up like that, and then put it down like that. Perfect, thank you.
Ricky? Sorry, I just want to make sure. Ricky, are we unmuted now? Catherine, I don't know where Ricky went, but he told me we were going to be. Oh, okay. Here we go. Thanks, Ricky. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it. I truly hope that you will expand your inclusive mindset tonight. That's our goal of having this wonderful speaker with us tonight. Tonight's speaker is brought to you by the First Congo's inclusion team. So if you're not familiar with the inclusion team, it is 18 wonderful church members, many that are here tonight, that came together to really talk about how we can make or continue to make the church a more inclusive place for all by awareness, education, discussions. And so we are so excited that John Grosshandler agreed to come speak to us tonight. He and his team are really changing the world to make it more inclusive for transgender and non-binary people. So I am so thankful. Heidi and I are the co-chairs of the inclusion team, and on behalf of Heidi, myself, and the whole inclusion team, we are so thankful to John for coming tonight. A heartfelt welcome and so much gratitude, and I am so thrilled to have John come up and speak to all of you tonight. So welcome, John.
Thank you, Rachel. That was very sweet, and thanks to all of you for coming here tonight. You mentioned you're thankful that I'm here. I feel I'm the thankful one. I am so pleased to be here. I appreciate the invitation to be here. I appreciate each of you giving up a little bit of your Sunday night to learn a little bit about GenderCool, my family story, the story of GenderCool, and in support of the idea of being an open and affirming church, and so I'm super, super thankful. As Rachel mentioned, my name is John Grosshandler. My pronouns are he, him. Hello to the viewers at home via the live stream. I'm actually live in Highland Park, where I was born and raised. Super fast trip here tonight, and I could not be more pleased. One of the reasons I'm pleased is that even though I've made hundreds of presentations in my life, I've actually never presented in a church before. So I appreciate this new opportunity because I'm on my own journey, and it includes speaking to you all here tonight in this house of worship, which is super cool. And so knowing that I'd never done something like this before, I felt I wanted to do a little bit of research. And the first thing I did is I actually grabbed this book that I bought about a year ago. It's called the Handbook of Denominations in the United States. You see, I'm Jewish, and I don't know a lot about the Christian faith. Within the Jewish faith, it's kind of easy. You've got Reformed Jews, which is what I am. You've got conservative and you've got Orthodox. But I know within Christian denominations, there's many different denominations. And this book was one way for me to research a year ago. And I brushed up on the United Church of Christ. So especially pleased to be here for this unique opportunity. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the first slide here and mention that as part of my research, I wanted to look into both First Congo as well as United Church of Christ. And I was really quite impressed by all the work that the inclusion team has already done before me coming here tonight, which is very, very impressive. I went to the website and I actually watched all of these videos. I saw Pastor Rich talking about the inclusion journey that the church is on. I watched Kathy and Meredith talk about the importance of not just being welcoming, but being on a quest to learn about what does it really mean to be inclusive. I watched Rachel talk about the basics of being a good ally. And by the way, you just being here now, you are good allies. You're looking to learn, you're probably supportive, and by the end of tonight, you'll be in a position to be perhaps even more supportive, so you're being good allies. I saw Pastor Meredith talking about the importance of being a sanctuary for all. I was very struck by Chase's story. So Chase grew up in the church, was a summer intern, and went on his own transition to becoming his true authentic self as a transgender man. And he talked about his journey and that of the church and their journey. And then lastly, Rachel and Heidi just last week talking about their personal reflections and Heidi's extraordinary experience raising their child, Leo, who I've had the privilege of meeting, a beautiful young girl. So it's not just First Congo, it's UCC going back all the way to 1972, demonstrating this idea of inclusion. So I think there's a lot of denominations in this book I read that are not as affirming, a lot of individual churches not as affirming, so kudos to really all of you for being affirming. So why am I here today? Some of you might be wondering that. And the answer is to share some stories, because the way we often learn most effectively is by sharing and hearing stories. And I'll go back to something that Chase shared as he was sharing his story of growing up in the church and transitioning. He talked about his dad and others. And it's fair to say that being transgender or non-binary is not necessarily the easiest thing to understand. And because it's not easy to understand, and because a lot of people have maybe not met somebody who is transgender or non-binary, that not knowing can lead to fear. That's why you being here to learn and hear our stories can help you maybe not be so confused or fearful about it. But in the end, you don't actually, being a good ally, as Rachel talks about, and as Chase talks about, you don't need to understand it completely to be accepting of it. So with that, I've got a number of fun videos for you. I know we've got a young audience, so I've peppered the YouTube generation here with a number of videos. And the first one is going to be about my family story. So that is a part of my extended family, and they're all very supportive of my daughter Chazzie, who proudly identifies as transgender. And instead of hearing me talk anymore, I'm going to play the first short video to learn a little bit about how I got involved with all of this.
Hi, we're the Gross Handlers. I'm Jen.
And I'm John.
And we were known here in our community as the family of 4 boys. Our youngest child was born in a boy's body, and we named this kiddo Chaz. Chaz was born into the most masculine of households, with 3 older brothers, a dad, and even our dog was a boy. It was boy world. As soon as this kid could communicate, Chaz went in the opposite direction. It was all about the girl stuff. The books, the dolls, the clothes, the toys, the colors.
We were in uncharted territory. We surrounded ourselves with experts, we read books. We basically did everything we could to support our child. At age 4, Chaz decided that having long hair was the most important thing in life. Chaz would take these t-shirts and make long hair. These t-shirts went with us everywhere.
About 1.5 years ago, we were getting ready for school. And I looked over at Chaz and there were huge tears. And I said, honey, what is wrong? Why are you so sad? And Chaz said, Mom, what happens if I'm a girl? Because I am. I'm a girl. What will happen to me? Will my brothers love me? Will my friends love me? Will my dad love me? And I said, babe, we believe you. We believe you. And we're gonna do everything we can to make sure you have the best life ever.
Last year in 5th grade, our youngest socially transitioned, which means she's living as the person she was always meant to be. Chazzie is our daughter, and she rocks.
And our entire extended family has been so awesome. They totally get it.
My daughter Creek and Chazzie have been the best of friends since they were little babies, and we have been blessed to be a part of this remarkable family.
Some of my favorite things are to make slime, hang out with Creek, and do art projects.
Having a trans sister to me is just like having a sister. I will always support her because I want her to be happy, just like any other family would, just like any other big brother would for their sister.
We made the decision as a family to tell our story, to show the world that families raising transgender kids are normal. This is us, and there are thousands of families just like ours in communities everywhere.
And we can say with every ounce of certainty that Chazzie was always our daughter, and we are so incredibly proud to be her parents.
And so that's the story of my family and how we not only were so touched by my daughter's experience and how wonderful that was, but we knew that most people say they've never met anybody who is transgender or non-binary. So that's why we decided we needed to sort of share the stories, and we started out our nonprofit called GenderCool about 4 years ago. So now I'm going to share a little bit about the GenderCool story. I'm going to back up one more here. Awesome. So it's a youth-led movement replacing misinformed opinions with powerful, positive experiences, meeting transgender and non-binary youth who are thriving. And the way we do that is by having them meet what we call our champions. So our champions, we've got about 20 of them now. We started with 5. You'll see the original 5 on the Today Show. We're now up to 20. We're adding new ones all the time. These are truly extraordinary young people. They're ages 12 to 17, and they truly are champions. Those folks you see there are all some of our champions, all either transgender or non-binary. And they speak at corporations, they visit the White House and meet with the President of the United States, they speak at their local churches, so even though this is new for me, they've done that. And they are really leading this whole nonprofit that we started. I need to get better with this clicker, so I apologize for that. One of the reasons that we do a lot of work with corporations is that the surveys show that 1 out of 6 young people identify as LGBTQ. So if you're a big company, whether you're Dell or HP or Bank of America or even mid-sized and small companies, if you want to be able to attract these young people when they come out of college and retain them, you need to get better at your policies and procedures to welcome them. Because what the studies show is that if you have an affirming workplace, you're going to get the most out of your employees, you're going to do the best as a company. And so that's why we have a lot of companies working with us, including some in the audience today. So rather than me talk any more about GenderCool, I'm going to show a quick 2-minute video that we did at our 3-year anniversary.
My name is Daniel.
My name is Stella.
My name is Kai.
My name is Bobby. My name is Nicole, and I proudly identify as transgender. 3 years ago, I set out to find kids like me. Kids who felt loved and supported by their family and friends.
We just are so proud of everything you've done up to this point and excited for what's ahead.
I'm me because I'm surrounded by people who love and accept me.
Because I'm loved and supported by my family, friends, and community.
I am able to grow up living life to the fullest.
Yeah! I feel just so happy. We're future Olympians, CEOs, actors,
Filmmakers.
and so much more.
We knew that if people could just get to know us, we could create a world where people are known for who we are, not what we are.
And guess what?
And guess what?
And guess what? And guess what? The most amazing thing happened.
people started to listen.
This GenderCool community is providing leadership, role models, and showing the world how to live as better people.
We are singers, photographers, athletes, politicians, musicians, and that's what makes us beautiful.
As the word spread, we got to partner with visionary companies
to help build workplaces that are transformative.
We are paving the way for the next gen workforce.
We are speaking out, singing songs,
Writing books.
being regular kids.
We are GenderCool.
And we are changing the world.
You know, as I saw that, thank you very much. As I was watching that video, I reminded myself that I've thrown around some terms, transgender, non-binary, and although these are terms that many of us know and I hear every day, I recognize that not necessarily everyone really knows what those mean. So just super quickly, my daughter Chazzie, who was in that last video, she was, when she was born, she was assigned male at birth, so born in a boy's body. But she always knew she was a girl inside, and she socially transitioned in 5th grade into her true, authentic girl self. So she's a transgender girl, although she just thinks of herself as a girl, because she is. If you are a boy born in a girl's body, and you realize that you're actually a boy inside, your heart and your brain are all boy, then you may socially transition to your true, authentic boy self, and then you're a transgender boy. If you're non-binary, that's sort of a newer one for some folks, and that's where you don't subscribe to the binary of you're either a boy or you're a girl. And maybe you're somewhere in between. Maybe you're a little bit of both, and so you're non-binary. And you may go by pronouns like they, them. So that's just, if I throw those terms around, I wanted to share a little bit about what that means. So these are 20 of our champions, and what you can see is that we focus not so much on what they are, but who they are. And they are filmmakers and athletes and photographers and musicians and future CEOs. They are extraordinary. I mentioned they're ages 12 to 17. We have a number of them who are now champion alumni because they've aged out, but they're still working with us in super cool ways. And if you go to our website, you can watch videos on all of them, and they truly are champions. They're very, very impressive. One that's incredibly impressive is Champion Rebecca. And I'm about to show a video of Champion Rebecca that was just captured and it was released like a week ago on Parents Magazine. Because behind each of these great champions is an extraordinary parent or parents. Just like all the great kids in the room, you have great parents that help make you great. The same is true for these champions. And it turns out, as you'll see in a second, that Champion Rebecca's dad happens to be a Lutheran minister. And so I thought that that would be particularly appropriate for this audience. And again, this was put out by Parents Magazine just recently. And enjoy learning a little bit about Champion Rebecca, her family, and her connection to her faith.
We have 3 kids. Our oldest, Rebecca, is 14. Our middle kid, Elijah, is 12. And our youngest, Oliver, is 7. So I'm a Lutheran pastor, which means that I help to lead a congregation. Sometimes that means visiting the sick. Sometimes it means running programs. It means running worship on Sunday mornings. In the last year and a half, it's meant becoming an expert on broadcasting services over YouTube. So, you know, it means a lot of things depending on the day.
I would say that our family is loud and we like to laugh a lot. We love to hike and be outside. We play games. We love to cook really good food and eat it with friends and family, whether that's in the kitchen or around the fire pit outside. Rebecca is our oldest child, and she is a ball of light. She's super energetic, she's full of joy. She is the kid that has a 99 in a class and still does the extra credit assignment. Like, she is a hard worker. She loves to spend time with friends, and she also happens to be transgender.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a freshman in high school, so 9th grade, and I live in New Jersey. I try to be as, fun as possible when I'm with my friends. We do the things that any typical teenagers would do. We just hang out, we talk, we laugh, we play around, go on walks and stuff. I loved Fun Friday at my school, where we could paint our nails, put clips in our hair. I stole my mom's old dance recital costumes. I would whirl and twirl down the hallways and wherever I went. At 8, I found the word transgender and it clicked.
When Rebecca transitioned, we introduced Rebecca to our congregation in parts, right? We introduced her to trusted leaders first, and then through them, we educated the other people around us so that people could learn what they needed to know, and they could learn fact from fiction.
We had some expectations. You need to use Rebecca's name and pronouns, and you can have all the questions you want, but you can't ask them in front of her. You can ask us, and we'll go on that journey with you. And it was a really powerful experience to watch folks kind of stretch and learn and have their opinions evolve of what it means to be trans in the world. One person, the first Sunday that Rebecca showed up at church as herself, he came up to Chris and said, "Listen, I don't understand this whole transgender thing, but she used to hide behind you on Sunday mornings and refuse to say hi to me. And today, she ran up to me, twirled in her dress, and gave me a high five. What more is there to know?"
Being transgender just means being myself. For me, it was kind of like putting on my favorite pair of jeans. They fit so right, they make you feel more you. I play field hockey. I've been playing since I was in 4th grade. I play with my school team. I am a defender. Defense has really always been something that I've loved doing. I think there's always room to improve in any position, but especially in defense. Field hockey is such a team player sport, like any sport is, but you have to be one with your team, otherwise it's not gonna work.
When it comes to field hockey, she's just another player on the field. I think sports has really taught Rebecca to be willing to do things that she might not be good at because she knows she's capable of getting better. Transgender kids play sports for the same reasons all kids play sports. They play because they want to be a part of the team, they want to do something they love, and they want to hang out with their friends. And anyone who wants to keep them from doing that is just bullying kids. So when Rebecca transitioned, we found ourselves advocates, just by nature of helping people get to know her and understand what it means to love and support a transgender kid. And so we started with our friends and our family, and then our church and school and our community, and it just got kind of bigger and bigger in those circles of reach. And so suddenly I found myself doing this work full time. Sometimes that looks like showing up at the State House to testify in support of legislation that is positive for the LGBTQ+ community. Sometimes it means meeting with legislators in DC. Other times it means working with local schools or community organizations to develop positive policies that create inclusive environments.
I got into advocacy when I spoke at a rally when the federal administration rescinded the guidance for trans students in schools. At that rally, I had a sign and it said, "I'm the scary transgender person the media warned you about." It kind of went everywhere. I remember coming home from school and my mom would tell me I had an interview today with Huffington Post, Teen Vogue, Yahoo News. It was such a crazy thing to have this sort of platform, but I knew I needed to use it because it's important to me.
It's been incredible to watch Rebecca kind of step into advocacy overall. And so when she testified in front of the New Jersey State Assembly, it was incredible.
That was really important to me because when I see myself in the world around me, it makes me feel empowered and supported, and I want every other kid to be able to have that sort of same feeling and to be empowered and supported.
To know that your child is confident enough in who they are to not only go out there and advocate for themselves, but to advocate for their whole community, that's really powerful.
I've written a few op-eds for the Philadelphia Inquirer. One of the biggest things recently, I wrote a book with GenderCool along with my fellow champion Ashton. If I had these books when I was a kid, it would have been so impactful because I could see myself in these books around me. I was a part of the Marvel Hero Project, a docu-series. There was an episode highlighting me and like the work I've done. They made me into a Marvel superhero, which was super cool. I like my hair in this especially. It looks really cool.
I hope that people realize that transgender kids are kids, just like every other kid they meet. And they want all of the same things that other kids want, so we should probably treat them that way. Love them for who they are, and do whatever we can as a society to help them be the best adults that they can be.
I just want to inspire others, letting all kids that they know that they're not alone, but also giving them this sort of platform. When they see kids like me standing up and doing this kind of work, they know that they can also do it because it doesn't matter how young you are, you still have the voice and the power to make a difference.
You know, that's the longest video I have for you tonight, and we're more than halfway done, but I just want to point out I was looking here, and not a single person was on their phone or distracted, and this says a lot about you. So for the youth director who I met and the pastors and all of you to stay, you know, focused on this, even with a little bit of a longer video, is very impressive. I also want to give a shout out to Ricky, who has done a fabulous job with the live stream and helping the AV. Thank you, Ricky. One of the many unsung heroes that makes these events possible. I do want to, and I think the pastor in that last video said it well, these kids are just normal kids. Let's just let them be kids, let's support them, let's help them be the best grown-ups they can be. Is that really such a hard concept? I don't think so. Now, Champion Rebecca is extraordinary. She's literally a Marvel superhero. That is pretty cool. She has gone viral for all sorts of great reasons. She's interacting with businesses, doing some cool reverse mentorships that we'll talk about in a second. You just saw her as a 14-year-old. I've got another clip when she was just 11. And this one is super cool. It's shorter than the last video, but it's when she spoke at the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America youth gathering. They have an annual convention with 30,000 young people. So imagine being 11 years old and coming out to 30,000 people about your story and about your relationship with God. And so take a look at what Rebecca had to say to 30,000 wonderful young people.
To me, being transgender just means being myself. It means being who God made me to be. It's not about how I act or what I wear. It's who I am. When I was younger,
I'm going to try to restart that because it seemed like the sync. This is what I get for complimenting Ricky, although I'm sure it's something wrong that I did in the video. Let's give that one more try. It's just too distracting when the mouth is not synced with the audio. Okay, it's okay to cross your fingers in church, is that correct? I cross my fingers in temple all the time. I think it's okay across religions. Let's hope for the best. Here we go. So I'm going to skip by this one.
It's not about how I act.
So you're saved from that 5-minute. The too long didn't read is that she did a great job, talked about her relationship with God. She talks about how God doesn't make mistakes. God made her in his image, and she is exactly who she's supposed to be. And if you go and search on Rebecca and Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, you'll find that video. It's also on the GenderCool website, and it's really quite wonderful. She was 11 years old, and you could hear the 30,000 young people cheering her on, her bravery, and she's truly a champion. So we talk at GenderCool about impacting the cultural arena, the political arena, and the business arena, and I just want to talk a little bit about that. And I've got some audience participation coming up here soon, so get ready to raise your hands. But you can see Rebecca on the left holding the magazine that she was featured in as a superhero. We've talked about her. To the right is Champion Ghira. So do me a favor, if you've ever been in a Nike store, please raise your hand. Ever been in a Nike store? Awesome, almost everybody. And if you've ever been in a Nike store, depending on how long ago, there might have been like full life-size posters and holograms and videos of Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant or other famous, the Serena and Williams, for example. Well, if you had gone in June of last year, Pride Month, you would have seen Champion Ghira, and she was full life along with two other transgender or non-binary kids who are young. And it was Nike's way of celebrating Pride Month and these extraordinary champions. And it was really quite a sight to see. She is a model and an actress. She's been on the Pose TV show on FX. She's done a recent shoot for Nike, not for anything transgender related, but for International Day of the Woman. So again, these are just girls and women, and Nike is one of our best corporate partners, and we're so thankful for what they're doing. In fact, they've just decided to give us a ton of money to run national ads about kids being able to play sports, trans kids being able to play sports. Of course they should be able to play sports, and so Nike is wonderful. You can see some of the different news outlets that we've been featured in over the past few years. We launched 4 years ago, and my wife, who, along with Ghira Goldstein, the three of us are the founders of GenderCool. My wife is a communications expert and a PR person, and she's like, we're going to launch GenderCool in a big way. We're going to go on the Today Show with Megyn Kelly with 3 million viewers and launch GenderCool. And she did it with these 5 original champions that you see here, and they just did a great job. So I'm going to play this video here for you to see what it was like when we first launched. Let's hope that the audio is in sync here. Fingers crossed.
Well, the people with me on stage right now are all transgender kids who want others to know it is possible to transition socially with love and support and acceptance within a family and a community. Please welcome 16-year-old Nicole, 12-year-old Daniel, 14-year-old Gia, 15-year-old Landon, and 13-year-old Stella. Their parents are also here. Morning, everyone. Morning. Also joining me in our special audience is Ghira Goldstein, who's a transgender woman who is the co-founder, along with Jen Grosslandler, who you just met, of the GenderCool Project, a new movement that is being launched today. We're going to tell you all about it, and it's actually really important. So, all right, welcome to you all. Everybody nervous? Everyone sufficiently nervous? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stop. No.
All right, so I want to start with you, Daniel, because I love the Oscar Wilde quote.
Oh, yes.
That you tell people. Just to sum up your experience, what is it?
Be yourself, everybody else is already taken. So, yeah,
and what does that mean to you? What has that meant to you through this process?
Basically, to just be who you are, because everyone else is already taken. You can't be I can't be Landon. I'm me. So,
Stella, I know you say you knew from a very young age. You understood that you were a girl. So how? Like, what told you that?
Well, it really started when I was 2. I have some friends who live down in Portland, and they like one of my friends had a Tinkerbell dress and I loved it so much, and so I just took it home and then played with it so often, because yes, I was a fairy fan. And so then I came out age 9, so.
Wow. Gia, is it true that you actually wrote a letter the day before 8th grade, that you wrote a letter to all of your fellow students informing them of this?
Yeah, that is true. I felt like that writing a letter, it gave me more confidence on the first day of school, just so like everybody knew what was going on, like beforehand, instead of just like coming out and like surprising so many people.
What did you write?
I just like wrote how I've been feeling for like my whole entire life, like that, like this is who I really am.
Mm-hmm. And how did they respond?
I got only positive messages. Everyone was very supportive.
That's unbelievable, right? Because I think a lot of people out there would be like, oh no, they're gonna get bullied. A lot of parents would worry about that. I mean, I think it's a testament to your community. And I know a lot of you have had the same experience, that you've been so well supported. How much has that meant to you? Nicole, I'll ask you to feel supported in the process.
Yeah, you know, to be supported in this process, like my father, I haven't seen him in 4 years because of my transition. And, you know, it really hurts that he's not here, but, you know, I'm living life and I have support. And, you know, one of the sad things is luckily the 5 of us, we have support. Many of us don't in this community, and many don't feel safe. And that shouldn't be that way, because everybody should be free to be themselves and live their lives as who they are, so they don't have to worry about discrimination. And that starts with all of us working on this movement and not showing all of the sad stories, and showing how amazing trans people are, and not just focusing on the trans piece. We are so much more than just trans people.
I want to tell the audience that our kids today are from different areas of the country. It's not like everybody's from one community. We've gathered folks together from everywhere, just to sort of make the point that this is happening to kids everywhere who are looking for love and acceptance, and just to live their lives according to who they are. Landon, I know that you're an activist. You say, I'm an activist, I wear it loud, wear it proud. How do you feel when you see some of the rollbacks of transgender equality rights that we've been seeing?
I think we can all have similar feelings on this. It's just devastating, but it's a push to fight harder and be louder. And I think something that is essential for everyone to know in this audience and to the viewers at home is that I was told early on in my experience, we're all diamonds. We each have different sides and different faces and different angles, and each of those different parts make up the whole beautiful gem. One of that part is being transgender for us, but that is not the entire diamond. We are singers, photographers, athletes, politicians, musicians, and that's what makes us beautiful. Not being trans, that's not the only thing that makes us that diamond. We're so much more. We're not.
In fact, you don't want all the focus on that. I mean, you're here today talking about it because we're talking about it, but in your real lives, this isn't the focus of your existence. This is, you're just out there living your lives. And one of the reasons that Ghira is here, she is a nationally recognized expert on this topic, and she and Jenna have started this group. Tell us, Ghira, what the purpose of the group is.
So thank you for having us. Really, the purpose is what we're doing here today. It's sharing stories, sharing experiences, allowing people to see what and who we are talking about when we're talking about transgender people. And as Landon said, this is a topic about people. So Jen and I, with GenderCool, have built this platform and basically to step out of the way, right, and let the transgender youth all over the place come out and talk about who they are and not what they are.
So much of the coverage is doom and gloom and scare and so on, and the story is so much bigger and better than that. There are some stories that are dark and upsetting, but it's so much more complex and rich and potentially awesome than that, truly. That's the truth. Wait, I have to speak to Lucina, yeah, because I love what you said, that you felt relief for Gia, relief. Explain that.
Well, it wasn't only relief for Gia, it was relief for our entire family. I don't think we realized what we were carrying until we were free. And I always say that the truth will set you free. And if you stand in your truth, no one can take that from you. So to send that letter out to the entire middle school community and get nothing but love and support back was incredible. And then you just felt the weight melt off our shoulders and know that we had been carrying this as much as Gia had.
And Aaron, where's Aaron? There you are, sorry, okay. You're Landon's dad.
Yes.
You admit, at first you were like, oh no, this is, like this could hurt socially, you know, and there could be blowback, there could be bullying. You had never met a transgender person before. Talk about your process in getting to the place you are now.
I think most of us as parents, the last thing we want for our kids is for their life to be hard. We want them to have all the opportunity that we had and more. So when Landon came out as trans, I was so ignorant on the topic that all I could imagine is a life of struggle for Landon.
And you know there are a lot of people at home right now thinking that right now. So what is your message to them?
My message to them is these 5 kids are a perfect example of the beauty that happens when a child is loved and fully embraced for who they are.
Well said. Well said. Thank you all for sharing your stories. It's an honor to know you. We'll be right back.
That was a very exciting day. That was filmed in NBC Studios in Rockefeller Center in New York City. We had time with Megyn Kelly beforehand. She's really quite extraordinary. That was just one of 4 segments that was held on the Today Show with 3 million viewers, as I mentioned. And it was a total of 23 minutes. So that was a segment with the 5 original champions. There was a segment with me, my wife, and my daughter. There was a segment with me, my wife, and our 4 kids. It was extraordinary to have what had never happened before, which is just 5 extraordinary young people talking about who they are and not focusing on the fact that they happen to be transgender and non-binary. And it really launched us into where we are today, as you'll get a feeling for here in a couple of slides. I do want to mention again, in the spirit of sort of awareness building, is we've talked a lot about transgender, non-binary. We've talked about the difference between those two. But I know that as you think about your vote, I think this June, to get the designation of an open and affirming church, it's not just about trans and non-binary, it's about LGBTQ, right? So I just want to distinguish, and I think the young kids know this, but for old people like myself it might not be as obvious, is the distinction within those letters, because most of those letters, like lesbian and gay and bisexual, relate to sexual orientation, which is just who am I physically attracted to. But the T is related to transgender, which is gender identity, which is sort of who I feel like I am. Who am I in my heart and my brain? And so I just wanted to distinguish that the spectrum of LGBTQ, some of it is about who am I attracted to, but the transgender non-binary topic is, regardless of who am I attracted to, it's who am I inside? In my daughter's case, she's just a girl. So I wanted to share that as well. So we alluded earlier to a book series that we wrote in combination with a publisher, a kid's book about, super cool, aimed at kids sort of 5 to 10. State Farm actually just recently gave us a grant. They're going to be giving hundreds of these books away to their agents in the entire US, and they'll be sent to those State Farm insurance agents, and then those State Farm insurance agents will donate it to a school library or a church library or a temple library or a local LGBTQ. So these books are being read by a lot of folks. And if you're interested, if there's somebody that you'd like in your life or your network or your neighborhood, you can get these books on our website. I want to talk just for a minute about the impact we're having in the business arena. So again, a show of hands, if you either have ever had a Dell computer, or you know somebody who has a Dell computer, or you've seen a Dell computer or a Dell laptop or a Dell monitor, raise your hand. Okay, so a very common type of computer, and Dell is one of our top corporate partners, one of our earliest corporate partners, and as an example of how serious many businesses are taking this topic of preparing for the next gen workforce that increasingly identifies as LGBTQ, we've got there in the bottom right, Michael Dell. Michael Dell founded Dell Computers in his dorm room at the University of Texas as a college kid, and is now worth like $50 billion. And more importantly than that, he's a wonderful man, and he leads a great, great company. And he directly participated in this virtual event back in June of 2020, I think it was. And it's very common, actually, for CEOs of big companies to interact directly with GenderCool and our champions as a way to show all of their employees that they are actually not just talking the talk, but they're walking the walk. And that's what you all, it seems to me, are doing here by showing up here tonight and learning, is you're actually putting in the work to learn about this important topic. So as it relates, we've got 15 corporate partners, Dell, VMware, HP, Intel, Intuit, Capital One, NBC Universal, the list goes on from there. And one of the cool things we did, in fact, I think this is where Rachel and I met, is, and this is for people in the workforce or about to be going into internships, just know that these companies are taking this topic of LGBTQ very seriously, and they've got what are called employee resource groups within these big companies that are focused on making sure that that company is as welcoming and affirming for LGBTQ. And they also have similar things for Black employees or disabled employees or veteran employees or female employees. So just know that unlike maybe companies back in the old days, these new companies are increasingly becoming more affirming for people other than old white guys like myself. So that's something to look forward to. But if you are in charge of one of these LGBTQ Pride employee resource groups, there's a once-a-year convention that you go to that's extraordinary called Out and Equal. And this is where I met Rachel. They've got 6,000 of these employee resource group leaders. And this convention conference invited GenderCool, and this is a 2-minute highlight reel of what that experience was. Again, just sharing these champion stories with these business leaders.
Hi, I'm Kai, and I learned from a young age, younger than I am now, that confidence opens so many doors in life. It allows me to show the world who I am.
Taking opportunities leads to greatness, so I suggest you guys do the same. Thank you.
When we are embraced for who we are, we thrive and shine. Thank you.
This GenderCool community is providing leadership, providing role models, and showing the world how to live as better people. Thank you. Thank you all for all of that.
What makes GenderCool so special, besides like stories of connection like I just told, is that they amplify stories.
So today, I'm happy to announce a $50,000 partnership with GenderCool.
That's what's happening when you bring GenderCool into your workplace. You're having a real experience. It's not a training. It's not a slide deck. It's not PowerPoint. It's an emotion. It's a feeling. It's an experience that you will never forget.
Two of the champions that you saw in that video, and they were also on the Today Show. One was Landon and another was Ghira. And one of the pillars of work that GenderCool does is around leadership development. And I just wanted to mention we just announced that both Landon and Ghira have joined the GenderCool Board of Directors just in the past few weeks. And as you may know, whether you're a for-profit company like Dell or HP or Bank of America, or you're a nonprofit, you'll have a board of directors that sort of helps oversee and direct the organization. And so as 18-year-olds to join our board is an example of how we're grooming these champions to be leaders of industry, and it's very exciting. So I wanted to mention that. One of the last videos I have to show is actually another way that we're sort of getting these champions involved with corporate America. And it's what we call our reverse mentorship program. Champion Rebecca is the one that you saw with the Lutheran pastor as a dad, and she just finished doing a reverse mentorship with the company I work for, VMware, a great software company based out of California. And I just want to describe what these reverse mentorships are. And again, for those kids in the room, whether you're in junior high or high school or you're going to be in college, you know, mentorships and internships is something that you're going to be hearing a lot about and you're going to want to participate in. And we've probably all heard the term mentorship. And the mentorship is sort of the more senior or older person is sort of mentoring the younger person. And that's a super valuable thing. But a reverse mentorship is really flipping that on its head. And it applies to underrepresented minorities. So whether you're LGBTQ or you're black or you're disabled, you might be a reverse mentor. And what that means is that younger person, that sort of underrepresented minority person, is reverse mentoring the more senior person by just showing them who they are and what their sort of life experience is. And in that way, the senior person or the older person is learning, wow, they're just a normal person, they could be a great employee, and that's what reverse mentorships are about, and this is actually what GenderCool is doing more and more of. We are doing 3 of these with VMware, 2 of them with Intuit, 1 going with HP, and it's basically a 2-month-long program where this champion, typically a high school transgender or non-binary kid, is interacting for 2 months with employees at our corporate partner. And this talks a little bit about that program. This is just 2 minutes long to give you a flavor for it.
Hey there everyone, I'm GenderCool champion Ashton, and this past summer I was a mentee in the inaugural GenderCool/Intuit mentorship program. Let me start off by telling you all how amazing this experience was. You know, I got to spend a couple of weeks with 3 amazing mentors and learned so much about Intuit and their specific roles, and just that alone was eye-opening for me. You know, if there's one thing I want to share with you all, it's that this mentorship program does make a difference for us youth.
During Ashton's mentorship program, I learned that, quite honestly, the least interesting thing about him was the fact that he identified as trans. What really mattered is that he was an asset to Intuit simply because of his experience, his ideas, his creativity, and his exceptional execution of the Capstone project. Ashton taught me that if we truly want to create a world that we desire for tomorrow, we have to thoughtfully and intentionally build for inclusion and diversity today.
Hi, I'm GenderCool champion Daniel. My Intuit mentors Jennifer, Mariah, and Mike really made me feel like I wasn't any different. They made me feel confident to share my opinions and that my voice really mattered. The most meaningful part of the experience was knowing that I built these relationships and connections with people, that moving forward, I have a support system looking out for my success.
The GenderCool mentorship program gave me a real connection with Daniel and accountability to him. It's really on me as a manager to understand the limits of my own perceptions and my relationships with people who aren't like me.
I mean, Daniel's such an amazing individual who has really unique sets of thoughts and perspective on the world. And I think for me, it was not a surprise, but just a reminder that, you know, that type of perspective exists in all facets of life.
So we've got, I think, just one video left, and then there'll be opportunity for a Q&A, which I look forward to. But I mentioned the impact we've had in culture and in business. I also want to talk about the impact we're having politically. So as you may be aware, the previous administration rolled back rights for transgender people, and the new administration is supportive, but there's a lot of state-based laws that are being passed directly targeting these kids, which seems kind of inappropriate and unfair, but it's what caused GenderCool to step into the advocacy and political space, even though we had not planned on it. We felt we needed to. And it's really taken off. So on the left of the screen, you can see GenderCool champion Stella. So she was the youngest transgender person ever to testify before the US Senate. And it was in support of the Equality Act. So the Equality Act is a piece of federal legislation that would give LGBTQ people equal rights as much as anyone else in housing, in medical treatment, in employment, in getting loans, in other ways. Seemingly, this should be for every state, but right now there's a lot of states that don't provide that, so the Equality Act would provide that, and Stella testified in front of the Senate in support of that, which led to First Lady Dr. Jill Biden inviting her to her virtual box for President Biden's first address to a joint session of Congress. And that led to GenderCool champion Ashton being asked to the White House. So in June of 2021, President Biden made a big deal of Pride being back in the White House. And as part of that, he had GenderCool champion Ashton introduce him. So he spoke in the East Room of the White House for 7 minutes alongside Secretary Buttigieg there, who is a wonderful secretary who happens to be gay. And it's great to have Pride back in the White House. And part of the reason for the embrace is that they had met prior to this in, I think, the Oval Office. And that's when Ashton, let's see if I can get this to advance. Ricky, are you able to advance the slide for me? There you go. Thank you. I don't know if that was me or you, but it worked. So I don't know if this is the Oval Office or not, but this is Champion Ashton giving that a kid's book about bundle, one about transgender, one about non-binary, one about inclusiveness, to President Biden. You can see on that right picture, he's holding the books. And so we're very touched by that interaction with the White House. And this is the last video. I saved my favorite one for last. It's just 2 minutes long. These are the champions. This was captured. Here we go.
Or in a restaurant.
Or on a plane. Would you think that I was kind?
Would you wonder if I was extraordinary?
Or if I might dream of changing the world?
Because if I saw you on the street,
Or in a park?
I might wonder how you became the person that you are.
Are you an author, an athlete, or studying to become a doctor?
Do you dream of moving mountains with your words? Or building bridges with your heart?
Have you ever performed in front of a crowd?
introduced the President of the United States?
Or inspired people to be themselves and follow their dreams?
When you imagine the life that you want to build,
It's probably pretty close to the life
that I want to build.
It's probably pretty close to the life that we all want to build. And even if I don't yet understand how you became you,
or how brave you had to be,
or how many times you had to take a deep breath,
and know that you were just one step away from showing the world how incredible you are.
I do know this. If I passed you on the street, and if we started talking,
I would listen.
I would learn,
And I would accept you for who you truly are.
even if the world isn't always the place we want it to be,
We are always the ones who can change it
we just have to listen.
respect one another,
and decide.
that today is the day that
Everything changes.
Thanks so much for that. I've watched each of these videos hundreds of times, and I just love it more each time. So thank you for that. No presentation would be complete without 3 quick calls to action, if you're so inclined. So the one is whether it's in June or whenever that it's time to vote as a group to decide to get that designation to be an open and affirming church within the United Church of Christ. Perhaps remember these stories. Remember the people that you just met through these videos, and think, Do we want our welcoming to include all people and all children of God? If I go to the next bullet, it's to perhaps become an even stronger ally than I suspect many of you are. And so what does that mean? It means being willing to learn, being willing to come to events like this, being willing to accept things even if you don't actually understand them. Maybe it's putting your pronouns in your email signature or your Zoom webinar. So lots of different things you can do to be a better ally. Maybe if you hear somebody, whether they're young or old, talking trash about somebody who's transgender, non-binary, probably just because they've never met somebody, you can step up and say, you know, I actually saw this presentation, or I know somebody who's trans, and that's not my experience. They're actually pretty cool. So that would be a nice thing to do as an ally. And lastly, if you're interested in learning more or supporting us as a nonprofit, go to gendercool.org. And with that, I'm going to give the mic here to Rachel, and as soon as we can get at least a few questions out of you, you're all free to go. So that's incentive for somebody to be the brave first person to ask a question.
Any questions? I'm going to be the runner with the mic. Thanks, Julie. So I love how you're working with workplaces and adults on all of this. Do you ever go into schools and talk with, you know, sometimes I wonder if the children have a more difficult time understanding, or maybe I have that wrong. But I work in a school, and so I'm just interested on kind of how that plays out, if you guys ever do anything like that.
Thank you so much for that question. We actually do a lot of work in the schools, and I'll just reflect back on the Grosshandler family story, because when our daughter came out to us at 9 years of age, we had actually never met anybody who was transgender. And so we were a little scared what this means. Like Aaron said on the Today Show, no parent wants their child to be different or have a hard life, and we just didn't know. And if you go to the internet and you search up, you know, transgender kids, you might see all these kind of scary and often untrue, sensational stories. And yet when parents and communities and schools support these wonderful kids, they actually do far better than average. And so it's just about supporting them as their true authentic self. And that is very much in the schools, because where do kids spend most of their day but at the schools? So when we found this out, my incredible wife, Jennifer, engaged with, at that time, our grade school, because Chazzie was just going into 5th grade. And to the school's credit, it already had sort of some broad wording around being affirming, but when we dug into it, we found that our daughter was actually the first child to socially transition in that grade school. And so even though there was that broad policy, there weren't the actual tactical things that would make it easier for my child. And that's what my wife worked with the principal and eventually the superintendent, and got eventually all of the schools in the school district, K through 8, to adopt specific policies around pronoun use and using their name and being able to go to the bathroom that matches their gender identity. And then when Chazzie went into high school, we went through the same process with our high school, and they implemented. And so my wife now has gone around the country speaking about these successes with other school districts and educators and professionals. So if your school or anyone is interested in more detail on that, just reach out to us. So that was an awesome, awesome question. And I will say that most schools want to do the right thing, they're just not exactly sure how. So if an engaged parent or educator just is willing to connect them to knowledgeable resources, it normally goes quite well. Who has the next great question?
That one's on me, because I noticed this morning that our battery light was getting lower. So I do have a question, but first I want to just respond to a question that might be in the minds of some of our members here today, and that's the question of a time frame. We, as the inclusion team, have had a lot of conversations about what a time frame might be, and our first intention with that is to move at the pace of the Holy Spirit and to continue paying attention, listening, creating space for dialogue, and praying a lot. And so it was mentioned we might vote in June. That's a big might. That, again, depends on the pace of the Holy Spirit. So the committee, the team is currently looking at a draft of a covenant of inclusion. We are very much people of covenant. And so that would be the first step before we move to that decision about becoming an open and affirming church. But again, we've looked at the schedule of when annual meetings and semi-annual meetings are, and that's how June has come up. But we feel like there's still probably more conversation and learning to do. And so again, we're really intentional not to rush that at all. But that's just if anybody had that question. I didn't mean to jump in and respond to a question instead of ask a question. But now that I'm here, I will ask, what are some of the things that you would encourage, particularly the young people here tonight, what they might do as young people, as allies, as themselves, perhaps transgender, non-binary? What would be your advice to them as a leader in this field?
Thank you so much, Pastor. Thanks also for the clarification. So I'm known for being in a rush, so I think going at the pace of the Holy Spirit is smart, so thank you for that clarification. And it will happen when it's meant to happen. And so with that, I will also answer your question, which is, and it relates a little bit to the educator's question earlier, which is the young kids actually generally don't have an issue with this. This is very much a generational thing, where old people like me, for a variety of understandable reasons, struggle with this idea of whether it be sexual orientation or a gender identity or some other things. Whereas young people, increasingly, this is like not a big deal. Oh, you're gay, so what, let's go, grab a burger. Oh, you're transgender, non-binary, not a big deal, let's go see a movie. And so, and that's what gives me hope, quite frankly, because although there are a relatively small number of old politicians who have decided that attacking sort of already marginalized groups will help them get elected, these young people realize that people, whether they're black or white or Jewish or Christian or trans or non-binary, or whether they're gay or straight, that they're just people and they should be supported and they should have equal rights. And so it's thankfully not so much an issue for the younger people. Now, with that said, there is a difference between sort of being a decent ally and a great ally. And I think the young people here are in a great spot to be those great allies. And I think it's just learning more and being open-minded and realizing that you don't need to understand it completely to accept it and to support it. And again, not everyone is as enlightened as the folks I'm looking at here. So if you hear somebody talking smack, even though it might seem a little awkward, I encourage you to advocate for those who might be different than yourselves. So that was a great question, a great clarification. If we get one final question, then we're free to go. So thank you so much. And if you say it, I'll repeat it for the people at home.
What does the plus stand for? Can you clarify the plus part of LGBTQ+?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. So the question was, we hear, some people, it used to be LGBT, and then it became LGBTQ, and then it became various versions of LGBTQ, TIA, and so it sometimes gets shortened plus to reflect some of the other letters in the spectrum. And this is an area where I'm out of my depth a little bit, so I know mainly about the T, in transgender, but I can say that, for example, one of those added letters that sometimes gets left off is intersex, where you are born with parts of your body that sort of relate to both a boy and a girl, as an example. There's another letter A, which is asexual, and that relates to sexual orientation, which is you're not really attracted to anybody. And so these are all different minorities that are on the spectrum of LGBTQ+, who each have unique needs and each should have equal rights. And so with that, I'm going to hang around if anybody else has other questions, but I want to thank you all, and especially Rachel for inviting me, and Heidi, and everybody tonight. It's been a blessing for me, so thank you.
John, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming all this way and speaking to us tonight and opening our minds a little bit further, making us a little bit more inclusive. So I just wanted to clarify that even though we're waiting for the right time, right, that we have always been an inclusive church. We want everyone to be able to come and worship here and to feel God's love. So the last call to action is for each and every one of you as church members to be a very inclusive and extravagantly welcoming church member to all, and make this a place where each and every person feels like they can be their authentic self and that they belong. So thank you for coming tonight, and for all the work that we're going to continue to do over the coming months. So together, good night.